I woke up drenched in sweat again, the kind of sweat that feels like guilt bleeding out of your skin. Desire is a parasite chews on your bones, feeds on your silence, and leaves you raw. I thought I could live with it, hide it behind a smile and a locked door. But desire, when cursed, doesn't knock politely. It breaks you open. Ethan Cross, that's me. 28 years old, living in a quiet apartment complex in Brooklyn. Just another face in the crowd. Or at least that's what I wanted the world to believe. What the world didn't know was that at night, when the city outside hummed with life, something inside me roared, uncontainable, tearing through veins like fire. An endless hunger I couldn't explain, a curse I never asked for. And then Daniel moved in next door. He was 25, freshly licensed, the kind of doctor you expect to see on billboards or in a glossy magazine, not living in the apartment across the hall. I remember the first day we met. He smiled at me like the world hadn't yet shown him how cruel it could be. His hands were steady, his voice calm, but his eyes could see too much. I never wanted him to notice me, but somehow he always did. Started small. A knock at my door when I screamed in the middle of the night. His hand brushing mine when he handed me mail that was slipped into his box by mistake. And then one evening, when the hunger inside me felt unbearable, he looked at me and said softly, "Ethan, are you okay? You don't look fine." That was the first crack in the wall I had built. "You wouldn't understand," I told him, my voice colder than I intended. But Daniel wasn't the type to step back. He leaned against my doorway, arms crossed, and gave me a look that made me feel like I was on an operating table, every secret exposed. "Try me." The truth is, I was terrified. Terrified of him knowing what I was, of him seeing the monster I fought every night. But a darker, crueler part of me was terrified of something else, that maybe, just maybe, Daniel could save me. Because despite my curse, despite the fire gnawing inside me, whenever he was near, the hunger shifted. It wasn't the same savage ache. It was softer, sharper, like every ounce of desire inside me had found its true target. But how could I let him in? How could I tell him that the man next door wasn't just another neighbor, but a broken soul living under the weight of a curse so old, so consuming, that love itself felt like poison? And yet Daniel kept pushing. The night everything unraveled, the city was drowning in rain. I was standing at my window, glass fogged with my breath, the storm outside mirroring the one inside me. My hands trembled, my chest heaved. I thought I could fight it, but the hunger had other plans. My reflection looked back at me wild-eyed, desperate, unrecognizable. Then came the knock. 3 soft raps that pierced through the storm. "Ethan?" Daniel's voice, gentle, worried. "Please open up." I almost didn't, but I knew if I didn't, I'd break in ways that could never be undone. When I opened the door, he looked at me like he had expected the worst and still wasn't scared. My shirt clung to me, soaked with sweat and rain. My chest rose and fell like I had been running for hours. "You're burning up," he said, stepping inside before I could stop him. His hand brushed against my forehead, and I flinched not from the touch, but from how much I craved it. "I told you to stay away," I rasped. "And I told you," he whispered, close enough that I could feel his breath on my cheek, "that I don't scare easy." That was the moment something inside me broke, not the curse, but the walls I had wrapped around my heart. I wanted him, not just in the way my curse demanded, but in the way a drowning man wants air. "You don't understand," I whispered, almost pleading. "If you stay, I'll hurt you." Daniel shook his head, his eyes never leaving mine. "Or maybe," he said, "you'll let me heal you." The room tilted. The storm outside raged. And for the first time, I didn't know if the danger was my curse or the hope Daniel was offering me. Daniel's words haunted the silence between us. "Maybe you'll let me heal you." No one had ever said that to me before. No one had ever believed I was worth saving. Most people, if they saw even a glimpse of what I carried, would have run. But Daniel? He stayed. Ursa leaned closer. The storm hammered against the windows, thunder cracking like the earth itself was breaking apart. My chest tightened. the curse surging like fire under my skin, begging me to give in. I staggered back, but Daniel caught my wrist, his hand firm, grounding. "Don't," I warned, my voice jagged. "You don't know what I am." His eyes burned with something between defiance and compassion. "Then tell me. Show me. Stop carrying it alone." My breath came ragged. My secret had always been my prison, and now he was demanding the key. And God, part of me wanted to hand it over. "Every night," I whispered, my voice breaking, "I feel this hunger I can't control. It's not just desire. It's like a fire that never dies. No matter what I do, it grows. I can't sleep, I can't think. I feel like I'm losing myself. I can't be touched without wanting too much. I'm cursed, Daniel. And if you stay too close, you'll burn with me." His grip tightened. "You think that makes you unworthy of love?" The word love hit me harder than the storm outside. Daniel stepped closer, so close I could see the faint tremor in his jaw. He wasn't fearless, was choosing me despite his fear. His other hand rose, hesitating at my cheek before finally cupping it, warm against my fevered skin. "You're not a monster, Ethan," he said softly. "You're a man who's hurting. And I don't care how dark it feels, I won't leave you in it alone." Something inside me shattered. The hunger roared, but instead of feeling destructive, it shifted, focusing entirely on the man in front of me. Daniel's touch wasn't gasoline to the fire, it was water. Cooling, calming. For the first time, the curse bent instead of breaking me. I leaned into him before I could stop myself. Our foreheads touched, breath mingling in the fragile space between us. The moment stretched, suspended, as if the world itself held its breath. And then I kissed him. It wasn't desperate. It wasn't savage. It was trembling, careful. A confession poured into lips that met mine without hesitation. His kiss was steady where I was shaking, gentle where I was rough. The fire inside me didn't explode, it quieted, as if it had finally found where it belonged. When we pulled apart, his eyes searched mine wide and steady. "See?" he whispered. "You're still you." Tears burned my eyes. No curse had ever undone me like this man had. The weeks that followed weren't easy. Daniel stayed by my side, not as a savior with quick fixes, but as someone who refused to let me drown. He researched, asked questions, listened when I confessed things that made me hate myself. And every time I braced for rejection, he only stayed. There were nights when the hunger flared so violently I thought I'd break. I'd push him away, terrified I'd hurt him. But Daniel always returned, his presence a reminder that I was more than my curse. One night, lying on the floor of my apartment, staring at the ceiling fan spin lazily above us, Daniel said something that pierced me. "You call it a curse. But Ethan, maybe it's not about erasing it. Maybe it's about learning how to live with it, without letting it define you." I turned my head, watching him, the softness of his features in the glow of the lamp. "And if I can't?" He smiled faintly, reaching for my hand. "Then I'll keep reminding you until you believe it." The breaking point came months later. I had another spiral, one of the worst. The desire clawed at me, threatening to consume everything. I locked myself in my apartment, convinced this was the night I'd lose Daniel forever. But he broke through. Literally. I heard the splinter of my door frame as he forced his way inside. And when he found me shaking, drenched, half delirious, didn't hesitate. He pulled me into his arms, cradling me like I wasn't dangerous, like I wasn't broken. "Breathe," he whispered over and over. "Stay with me. You're more than this. I've got you." I sobbed into his shoulder, clutching him like a lifeline. And somehow, in that moment, the fire eased. Because Daniel's presence was stronger than the curse. That was the night I realized I wasn't fighting alone anymore. The ending wasn't dramatic. It was simple, almost ordinary, but that's what made it beautiful. One quiet Sunday morning, months after that night, we sat on my fire escape, coffee mugs warming our hands, the New York skyline stretching out in front of us. The world buzzed with life below, but up there, it was just us. Daniel leaned against me, his head on my shoulder. I felt the steady beat of his heart. And for once, my chest wasn't tight with hunger, it was full with something softer, steadier. Hope. I used to think I was cursed, I murmured, that this desire was all I'd ever be. Daniel tilted his head, his eyes meeting mine. And now, I looked at him, at the man who had chosen to see me as more than my demons. Now I think maybe the curse was never the desire. Maybe it was believing I didn't deserve to be loved. He smiled, slow and certain, before pressing his lips to mine. It wasn't fiery. It wasn't desperate. It was home. And for the first time, I believed I was free. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.